Thank you to K&F Concept for sponsoring this video. Over the last 17 years or so of being a photographer, I have made a lot of purchasing mistakes, and I spent a lot of money on stuff that I later found out that I really didn't need. But anyway, I was thinking, and I thought I should make a video like this just to highlight some of those mistakes so that hopefully you won't fall into the same sort of trap that I did. And to help me do that, my friends over at K&F Concept have kindly sent me some of their products to demonstrate the point a little bit better. So if you're new to photography, then the first thing that will probably be on the top of your shopping list is a camera bag. However, the common mistake that a lot of people make, including myself, is that they end up buying a big, bulky backpack style bag like this one. Now, don't get me wrong, this is an awesome bag. It does the job very, very well, but the mistake I really made was buying one just this large. Now, I promise you, there was some logic to my thinking, because I remember when buying that bag that I thought, if I buy one that's big enough, I can fit all of my stuff in it, and it can just live in that bag at all times, and that means whenever I go out on a job, I'll take it with me, and I'll have everything just in case I need it. However, what I failed to consider was that by doing this, the bag does get incredibly heavy, and therefore completely impractical to carry around with you for long periods of time. My back! So these days, this thing stays at home, and instead I almost exclusively shoot with a smaller bag like this. It's plenty large enough to store a camera body and maybe 1 or 2 lenses, some batteries and a few memory cards, but that's about it. And having less space to fill means that it's pretty much impossible to overpack, and instead you're forced to think considerately about what you bring along with you to every shoot so that you only bring what is actually needed for the job at hand. Not to mention that smaller bags are a lot cheaper too. This one I think retails for around $43 or about £35 versus my large one, which cost me over 4 times that amount. Now, although you can fit a camera in here, I actually prefer not to keep my camera in a bag unless I really, really need to. And that's because I find that if I have my camera physically in my hand, my brain instantly switches into photographer mode, so I'll be more actively looking out for those photo opportunities. So that's what I would recommend, getting yourself a good wrist strap. Not only does this safeguard against you accidentally dropping the camera, but if you do need to free up your hand at any moment, you can literally just let the camera swing by your side for a few moments whilst you do what you need to do. So some of you may be asking, why not just get a proper camera strap instead? Because then you can just have the camera hanging around your neck. Well, personally, I find that camera straps like this one are just a little bit awkward at times, because you then have to wrap them a million times around your wrist when you do actually want to take a photo, in which case, why not just get a wrist strap? Plus, when you do have the camera strap, you know, around your neck or over your shoulder like a sling, you are no longer in active photography capture mode, even though it is just down by your side, and you're much more likely to miss those moments. Now, I will admit that traveling light is all well and good, except for on occasions where you need to perhaps, you know, work on a larger job and you need to bring some more equipment along with you. But I think one of the biggest drawbacks to owning a huge camera bag like this is that this has been specifically designed for one function and one function alone, to be a camera bag. For all of the time I'm not using this, it literally just lives on my office floor not doing anything, which means I'm not really getting the most amount of value out of it. So if I had all of my time again and I had to pick a new camera bag today, I would probably go for something like this one, because this has multiple uses and it's just a fraction of the cost of that big expensive one that I just showed. Firstly, this bag is nicely padded to protect all of your gear, which is obviously very important, but also the insides are fully customizable. If you need to fill it with camera gear, you absolutely can, but for those other times where you really don't need to bring quite as much stuff with you, you can split the bag into 2 very distinct compartments, perhaps have all of your camera gear in the bottom section so that you can access it via this side entrance, and then in the top you can have just your everyday carry-along items like your jacket, your laptop, or anything else you might need. But what I most like about this particular design is that it's pretty unassuming and doesn't look like a stereotypical camera bag. So you could quite easily take this out with you and take all the innards out and use it as a regular backpack, compared to this, which you just wouldn't carry around as a normal backpack. Now, I'm going to assume that if you own enough equipment to fill out a bag like this, then the likelihood is that you're going to have 2 camera bodies, and therefore a little wrist strap just isn't going to cut it for most bigger jobs. So in scenarios like that, I would recommend getting a camera harness like this one. Now, the benefit of having a camera harness like this rather than a camera strap is that the weight of your cameras are spread evenly across your shoulders and your back, and it makes it way more comfortable to carry around 2 great big cameras for a whole day of working. Plus, they hang by your side and they're on these kind of like quick access like strap things, which genuinely does mean that you can grab hold of them and shoot really quickly. Now, I've used a harness like this for shooting weddings for many years, and these are way cheaper than they were back in the day. This one in particular is very affordable, priced at just $20, which is a little over £15. So it's really not going to break the bank either. Tripods. This is a piece of equipment that I feel personally a lot of people just buy because they feel like it is the done thing, you know, because if you're a photographer, you need a tripod, right? Well, no. In fact, my advice would always be do not buy a tripod unless you actually do need one. If you're planning on shooting stuff like portraits or street photography where 99% of your photos will be taken handheld, do not waste your time, energy and money going to buy a tripod, because honestly it will just sit in a cupboard somewhere and gather dust. But if you shoot landscapes or astrophotography, or you're just even remotely interested in experimenting with slow shutter speeds, then yes, you are probably going to need a tripod for that, in which case definitely buy one. My next piece of advice would be to not buy the cheapest tripod possible, and that's because cheap tripods are usually cheap because they're made from inferior materials or they're super thin and feeble. I'm too weak. And that means that when you go to use them, they'll flex, wobble, or just generally be unstable, which is completely the opposite of what you need from a tripod. I particularly like this one because it can also turn into a monopod, which is super handy for video work, and the more versatility a tripod can offer, the more often you are likely to use it, and therefore it is going to be better value. Anyway, thank you very much to K&F Concept for sponsoring this episode. I hope you found it useful, and if you are interested in learning about any of the items that I've shown in this video and to get an exclusive discount, be sure to check out all of the information in the video description below.